Sometimes you wonder where figures from the past have got to, and Suella Braverman has written a puff piece in the Telegraph today. It's very interesting. Her plan to end mass migration and why she is wrong now is important to recognise. Well, her plan to end mass migration is what she proposes. Why she is wrong now is what I conclude. And why she was wrong when she had the power to do right. In a country with a falling population, we need immigration to do the jobs we cannot. And the three laws that Braverman put forward were all predicated on defying international agreements that we remain signatory to. And this is not a sustainable position in an international democracy. The sensible approach, if we do not like it, is to have an international conference to revise the 1951 Refugee Convention along with the 2025 experience that we can talk about, and to repeal the Nationality and Borders Act as well as the Rwanda Act and the Illegal Immigration Acts. In other words, to ditch Suella Braverman's legacy in the Commons. So what else does she propose? In the Telegraph, let's begin by acknowledging the statement for what it is, a reasoned, evidence-led call for international cooperation and legislative coherence in the face of migration challenges. Suella Braverman, in fact, offers not an answer to that, but the illusion of sovereignty wrapped in the language of emergency, and her proposals, recycled with grim regularity, collapse absolutely under scrutiny. Her signature policies rely on these three deeply flawed pieces of legislation: the Nationality and Borders Act of 2022, the Illegal Migration Act of 2023, the Rwanda Asylum and Immigration Act of 2024. Each attempts to redefine Britain's obligations under the 1951 Refugee Convention and the European Convention on Human Rights without the consent of international partners or even with the judiciary. In fact, in defiance of the judiciary. This is not taking back control. It's abandoning legal responsibility, and it's setting a precedent that legal responsibility is no longer important, is no longer something that we should take seriously. And that is dangerous, I think. That's very dangerous. The Rwanda Act is perhaps the most absurd. It forces British courts to accept Rwanda as a safe country by parliamentary fiat, even as our own Supreme Court has ruled otherwise. It attempts to legislate reality, a judicial version of shouting safe, into the void and hoping no one notices the corpses washing up in the channel. Braverman complains of immigration by indulgence, a phrase aimed at international students as if their presence were decadent rather than strategic. In reality, foreign students contribute £41.9 billion to the UK economy, or did so in 2023. The graduate visa route fills essential gaps in sectors like tech, healthcare and engineering, and we need more. Many British universities depend on overseas students to survive, especially post-Brexit, post-austerity, and cutting this pipeline is not tough economics, it's an act of masochistic economic nationalism. Her claims this is not xenophobia, it's basic arithmetic, is in fact absurd. Her arithmetic works against her. Britain's population is ageing, our birth rate is below replacement. Entire sectors, care, agriculture and logistics, cannot function without the help of migrant labour. Raising visa salary thresholds to £45,000 doesn't solve the labour shortage, it ensures it. We need immigration not as a crutch, but as a catalyst for economic stability. And much of Braverman's language is suffused with culture, war, anxiety. She speaks of a silent multiplier in dependence, social cohesion, the technocratic blob. This is red meat populism aimed not at solutions but at stoking moral panic. And what is ignored is that dependent visas include spouses and children, not a clandestine army of public service draining grifters. Most dependents integrate successfully. They're not multipliers, but family units, a fact Braverman should appreciate as a British citizen with immigrant heritage herself. If these measures were truly viable, they would have worked when she had power. They didn't, and boat crossings increased under her watch. Legal migration surged precisely because illegal options were blocked, while no safe routes were introduced. The court revolted, the civil service balked, and international partners recoiled at our inhumanity. Even her allies in cabinet largely ignored her. Her lonely battle is not evidence of principled leadership. It's a sign of bad ideas rightly quarantined. If we dislike the current terms of refugee and migration law, the answer is not unilateral vandalism of legal norms, it's diplomatic reform. Call an international conference to modernise the 1951 Refugee Convention, recognising new realities such as climate refugees, trafficking and statelessness. Repeal legislation designed to provoke headlines rather than solve problems. Repeal the Nationality and Borders Act, the Illegal Immigration Act, the Rwanda Act. Manage migration routes that serve national needs and respect human dignity. And by the way, if Keir Starmer doesn't repeal the Nationality and Borders Act, the Illegal Migration Act, the Rwanda Act, then he is indulging these three acts of absurdity. In short, replace Bravermanism with pragmatism. And what else does she propose? The answer is very little of substance. Suella Braverman offers slogans in place of systems, aggression in place of administration. She has a talent for diagnosis, but none for prescription. Her vision of restoring control is an edifice built on two contradictions. One, it seeks global influence while scorning global rules. Two, it desires domestic calm while stoking perpetual grievance. And the great irony is that her plan to end mass migration would, if enacted, only intensify chaos, economic, diplomatic and legal. In a globalised world with a shrinking working population, we need more cooperation, not less. And as for Keir Starmer's further and faster, let's hope that direction isn't deepened into Suella's labyrinth of legal fantasy and towards a sane, humane migration policy fit for the 21st century. I say again, the only way to make things work is to hold an international conference and revise the 1951 Refugee Convention and then work on from that.